Good evening and welcome to the regular council meeting for Wednesday, March 1st, 2023. We are beginning at 6:02, and at this time I would like to do the traditional land acknowledgement, which we do on the first meeting of each month. We honor all the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit whose footsteps have marked these lands for centuries. We acknowledge that the ancestral and traditional lands on which we gather are land of the Blackfoot Confederacy and Treaty 7 territory, a traditional meeting ground for many Indigenous peoples, and in particular our neighbors, Siksika Nation, on whose traditional territory we work, live, and play, and on whose traditional territory we stand and where Strathmore resides. At this time, I'd like to confirm the agenda. Are there any emergent items from any of the councillors? Seeing none. Anything from administration or ledge services?
Thank you, Worshiping Council. Administration is requesting that Council amend the agenda to include item 12.2, an in-camera item, Council Dialogue - Local Public Body Confidences, FOIP Section 23(1).
Thank you. Councillor Peterson?
Your Worship, I would move that Council adopt the March 1st, 2023 regular Council meeting agenda as amended.
Thank you for the motion. All in favor? And the motion is carried. This brings us to our public hearing for tonight. The public hearing for bylaw 23-02, being a bylaw to amend the land use bylaw number 14-11, is now in session at 6:04 p.m. This public hearing is being held pursuant to the Municipal Government Act, RSA 2000, Chapter M-26, and amendments thereto. Legislative Services?
Thank you, Your Worship. The purpose of the public hearing is to discuss bylaw 2302, being a bylaw to amend land use bylaw 1411. A first reading of the bylaw was given during the February 1st, 2023 regular council meeting. The public hearing was advertised on the town's website on February 8th, 2023 in the Strathmore Times, on February 15th, 2023 in the Strathmore Times, and February 17th, 2023 on Facebook. To date, no written submissions have been received.
Thank you, Jonathan. The following rules of conduct will be followed during the public hearing. Presentations should be brief and to the point and shall be limited to 5 minutes in length. The order of presentation shall be the administration, those in favor of the bylaw, those opposed to the bylaw, and any other person deemed to be affected by the bylaw. Council may ask questions of the speakers after each presentation for clarification purposes, and there will be no debating the bylaw. Would administration like to present? Megan, good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Your Worship and Council. So this proposed amendment to remove the requirement that variance requests over 25% be heard by Council is being proposed after the recent townhouse development permit application showcased how lengthy and complicated the development permit review and decision process can become when it needs to go through Council for decision, which is counter to our goal to kind of reduce red tape for developers and builders. So to clarify, a variance request is when an applicant is asking permission to deviate from the regulations within the land use bylaw. Our usual variance requests are to property line setbacks, so just decreasing them. Important to note is that variance requests cannot include adding a use within the land use district. So that type of request would require Council's approval. And to date, the way that we've handled these types of requests is through the redesignation. So variance requests over 10% are required to be circulated to adjacent landowners. So just a small correction from the RFD. Typically, we leave a period of 2 weeks for adjacent landowner circulation phase. For the townhouse one, we gave 3 to 4 just because it was going before Council. If staff issues a development permit with a variance, it can be appealed. So that's a significant difference from when Council issues a decision on a development permit. The only way a Council decision can be appealed on a development permit is if the process leading to that decision was done incorrectly. Staff still has the discretion to refer an application to Council. So should staff feel that it isn't consistent with our statutory plans or any of Council's policies and directions, we would bring it before Council. By removing the variance request over 25%, by removing variance requests that, by removing the requirement that variance requests over 25% be reviewed by council, we'll be able to substantially decrease processing time and staff workload for these types of applications. That does conclude my presentation. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Megan. My only questions are, if you could just refresh my memory, I know height was one variance and green space. Is there another one that I'm missing?
For the townhouse development specifically, oh goodness. So it was height, setback, lot length, lot area, I believe, for that one. Bicycle parking was another. There were quite a few.
Okay, thank you. That's what I thought. Any questions from councilors? Then at this time, I will ask, Councillor Langmaid.
It's okay, I know I've been gone. I just have a brief question. Have these types of variance requests, are there other communities where these requirements have been waived by coming to council, where they've made the same change that you're proposing, is what I'm asking? Are there other communities where there's an example of this?
There are a handful, yes, yeah.
Are they communities similar to Strathmore, or are they much larger communities or much smaller?
The one I could think off the top of my head is Morinville. So they've taken the requirement out, and they've had it for at least a couple of years, I think now, and as far as I'm aware, they've not had any issues.
Okay.
So just to repeat myself, the community that I off the top of my head I can think of that has removed the requirement that larger variance requests go before council is in Morinville.
Okay, and what were you saying about green spaces?
Sorry, are you opposing the bylaw and you wish to speak, or are you in favor? Or are you wanting to ask a question?
So what's the variance on a green space? I'm just trying to understand what the variance would be.
You probably should come to the mic, but if possible, we should follow the format, and I can get you to come up if you have any questions for clarification, or if you think, there's a point in the public hearing where anyone present deemed to be affected by the bylaw can speak. So then we can have you come up to the microphone, and people at home can watch too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Langmaid?
One final question is just, I've seen the number that we receive in the past year and a half or so, but in general, how many of these applications might we see within a year?
Not very many. This is the first we've had in a couple of years.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Langmaid. Anything else from council? Seeing none, then I'll ask the next question. Is there anyone present who supports the bylaw who wishes to speak at this time? Seeing none, is there anyone present who opposes the bylaw who wishes to speak? And then we can move on to, is there anyone present deemed to be affected by the bylaw who wishes to speak? And so if you could come up and introduce yourself, and just make sure the microphone button is on. You should have a red light at the top of the mic when it's on, and the button should be down in the panel there. Thank you. So now, yes, you can speak if you wouldn't mind.
My name's Donnelly Henschel. I live in town here. My understanding is, especially with green space, that there was going to be allowed variances to be applied to green spaces without having any public input.
Are you saying that in the property that is being developed by the landowners?
No, by the town itself. So like a green space, the town owns that.
This is a privately owned property. It's not that we're giving up green space for it. We're possibly allowing a variance to have some adjustments made to a smaller amount of landscaping for the project. There's nothing in it about taking green space for the building, if that's what you're wondering.
Okay, so,
Yeah, this is a property that was where the old seed cleaning plant was.
okay.
And so it's now been bought by a developer who's planning to put in affordable rental units. So they're looking at a variance for their landscaping.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
You're welcome. That's good. You've got some clarification now, too. That's good. Thank you. Is there anyone else present who is affected by the bylaw and wishes to speak? Seeing none, are there any further questions of clarification from council? Seeing and hearing none, then the public hearing for bylaw 2302, being a bylaw to amend the land use bylaw number 1411, is closed at 6:12 p.m. Are there any public comments tonight, Jonathan, that you've been made aware of for any of the items on the agenda?
Thank you, Your Worship. There are no registered comments for tonight's meeting.
Okay, thank you. And we have no delegations tonight, which brings us to item 6.1, consent agenda. Are there any items from the consent agenda that councillors feel could be removed and dealt with individually? Seeing none, then I'm looking for a motion to, thank you, Councillor Peterson.
Your Worship, I would move that council adopt the recommendations of the following agenda reports by an omnibus motion. 7.1 regular council meeting minutes, February 15th of 2023. 8.1, 2022 capital and operating budget carry forwards and closed projects. And 10.2.1, Wheatland Housing Management Board meeting report, February 9th, 2023.
Thank you. Thank you. You've all heard the motion. All in favor? And the motion is carried. That brings us to 7, confirmation of minutes. 7.1, regular council meeting minutes for February 15th, 2023. Oh, sorry, that's right, I always do that. We'll move on to 8.2, thank you. The Vault Cultural Collective building lease, which is found on page 29 of your agenda package. Good evening, Mark, and welcome.
Thank you, Your Worship and Council. Excuse me. I'm here to speak tonight regarding Council's approval for a lease agreement between the town and the Vault Cultural Collective. If Council recalls, there was an existing MOU between the town and the Cultural Collective that provided a framework for their use of the space that was at the old, at 136 2nd Avenue, or the Standard Shoe Shop building. Due to some financial limitations and limited resources to coordinate a arts and cultural event, it was determined that a building lease agreement would be the easiest way to provide this group with a long-term lease agreement and an ability to apply for specific grants and other financial opportunities. This agreement would be a multi-year agreement that would offset the existing lease that the town has with the Warwicks. So at this time, that concludes my report, but I'm available if there's any questions of council.
Thank you for your presentation, Mark. Questions from council for Mark regarding the item and the potential motion coming forward? Councillor Montgomery?
Thank you. My only question just has to do with insurance. So the town has insurance, obviously, on the property, is that correct?
Yes, through the chair, we are, as per our lease with the building owners, the Warwicks, we have our own insurance, and that's, as a part of the lease agreement, the Cultural Collective would also get their own as well.
Okay. And anybody like that they sublet to would be under their insurance?
We would not really sublet. They would not be subleasing any space within there. There would be rental agreements within there, as per our agreement with them.
Okay, that's kind of what I meant. So if there was like a rental agreement, like if somebody was using it for a meeting or something like that, that would be under
That should be followed under their insurance, and they should be notifying their insurance provider of the business activities that they're conducting within that space.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Montgomery. If there are no further questions, is someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Montgomery.
Thank you. I will move that council authorize the chief administrative officer to sign the 2023 lease agreement with the Vault Cultural Collective as presented in attachment 1.
Thank you for your motion. All in favor? And the motion is carried. Thank you, Mark. That brings us to item 9.
Where's the sergeant at arms?
Yes. Item 9, land use bylaw, amending bylaw number 2302. Welcome back, Megan.
Good evening again, Your Worship and Council. So this is just, again, the bylaw to remove the requirement that variance requests over 25% be referred to council for decision. And if you guys have follow-up questions, I am available.
Any further questions from councilors? Councillor Peterson.
Your worship, I would move that council give second reading to bylaw number 23-02, being a bylaw to amend the land use bylaw 14-11.
Thank you. And now that we have second reading on the floor, is there discussion or comments on this? Councillor Wiley?
Yeah, so I'd just like to reiterate for anybody in the I want to use the word audience, but that's probably not the right word. Anyone in the chamber or anyone at home, that this isn't going to reduce green space, town-owned green space. It's not an amendment to do anything like that. This is just the private property specifically for somebody, and I think Mayor Fuel, you said it best, for landscaping purposes. So I think I hope that's clear.
Thank you, Councillor Wiley. Then I'll call the question. All in favor? Councillor Montgomery?
Thank you. I will move the council give third reading to bylaw number 23-02, being a bylaw to amend the land use bylaw number 14-11.
Thank you. All in favor? And that motion is carried. Thank you, Megan. This now brings us to item 10, councillor information inquiries. 10.1, questions between councillors and council statements. Is there anything tonight from anyone?
Sorry.
Councillor Montgomery? Oh, okay. So we'll move on then to 10.2. Are there any other board or committee reports other than Wheatland Housing that need to come forward tonight?
I just have a brief question, Your Worship, relevant. It has nothing to do with, actually, it's I'll wait till 10.3.
Okay, thank you. So no board reports. Okay, so we move on to 10.3, question and answer period. Councillor Peterson.
Your Worship, I received a query from Pastor Elizabeth Karp, the Executive Director of the Overnight Shelter, and she had just asked, she said someone had called, she'd missed a call from the town, but she knew that the council had elected to direct $10,000 towards that particular entity, and she was wondering if she had missed some questions or, you know, in terms of the money being sent and so on. So she was looking to see.
Through the chair, I believe this is a part of the funding allocation that.
It was out of the budget, yeah?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll have to follow up with finance. I thought those checks were actually in the mail, but.
Well,
I
and
could
they
be
might have had a
mistaken.
question for her. So, yeah, if you could, she just asked if you could follow up and give her any direction if there's anything she needed to do.
I will follow up with them.
Thank you so much.
And I do have a stack of checks on my desk to sign today too, so maybe that could be part of it. Okay, thank you. 10.4, do we have any administrative inquiries? Councillor Montgomery?
So just a question about, like, I sent in the agenda package, let's call it, for Community Futures a few weeks ago, and I think I sent it directly to you, Kevin, and maybe CC'd you, Kara. And I'm just wondering in the future, like, who I should actually send it to?
Not a problem to send it to me, but absolutely, though, copy John would be
Okay.
my suggestion as well.
Okay, thank you.
Just a follow-up, is that so that it shows up in here as a report?
Well, in the email I had said, please put
Right. I think something that helps, and I know from experience, is that when you direct it into the SLT, if you say, please include the report, please include this as the report from what the committee is, and then it gets there, yeah.
Thank you. Nothing from administrative inquiries. We have no notices of motion tonight. Correspondence, item 11, we have no correspondence tonight. So that brings us to our closed meeting, and I'm looking for a motion to go in camera. Councillor Langmaid.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd move that council move in camera to discuss items related to sections 24, subsection 1A and 23, subsection 1 of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act at 6:21 p.m.
Thank you, Councillor Langmaid. All in favor? And the motion is carried. We are now going in camera.